Hey everybody, welcome back to Bands, Beers, FPL. Hello from me and hello from Danny. We are just doing a bit of a free-for-all video just now, just to keep us in the loop. We're going to chat about Charity Shield, talk a little bit about our teams. I think this will just be quite a quick one, to be honest, compared to usual. So as usual, you can follow us on Twitter at Bands, Beers, FPL, all one word. That's at Bands, Beers, FPL, all one word.
Yeah, thanks to everyone that's followed us on there so far. We've got over 200 followers now, so it'll be nice to try and get towards 300 by the game week 1 deadline. So make sure you check out our Twitter. Since you're on the YouTube, as usual, make sure you like and subscribe to the page. It'd also be nice if anybody wants to comment and let us know things like questions you've got, or even like recommend a band, recommend a beer. Like, we're an open forum here, really. So get involved.
Yeah, and if we can find it, we'll drink it. So yeah, give us a good. So long as it's not anything too rubbish, we'll be on it. All right, so just kicking us off, I think we're going to keep this one kind of brief. So quick band recommendation for this week.
And yes, I'm going to quickly share the screen, show the Spotify of these guys. Hessian Renegade. These are a rap rave 2-piece from right here in Glasgow. Good mates of mine, actually. Known them for quite a while. Very different, like as it says on that tin, rap rave. It's not something you kind of hear about very often, but banging tunes. Just sort of like aggressive Scottish rap as well. It's funny, it's catchy, it'll get in your head. It's fun to bounce about to at gigs as well. So Hessian Renegade, Live, Laugh, Lager is a song that they just released recently, and it's very much just like the kind of things that we like, just drinking beers and having a good time and stuff. So Hessian Renegade, local boys, definitely worth checking out. For fans of bands like Hector Berserk and the La Fontaines, I would say maybe a bit of a stretch, even though maybe they're on one of the pop side. But Hessian Renegade, 2-piece rap rave. Remember that? Maybe that'll be like a genre that'll kick off as a name. Rap rave. That's it from them.
Sounds good to me, man. I'll definitely be checking them out. Sounds pretty interesting. Beer wise, I'm for my sins only managed to make it to Asda tonight, so I'm drinking one Eye Ipa from Tooth and Claw. It's quite an interesting. It's a nice beer. Admittedly, it's not. I don't think it's one of these. I think it's one of these kind of mass breweries. I don't think it's not particularly anything fancy, but good beer, good IPA. Quite enjoying it.
I had that before. Asda's stepping up their game now. I think the craft beers, it's always been, I thought Tesco were quite of a leader of the big supermarkets, but Asda and Morrison's and all that are kind of bringing better ones. Same with me, I haven't been able to do a good order recently, but I got Double Disco by Drygate. Nice. Love the Disco forklift truck, the sort of normal 5% effort that you get. So this is a mango smoothie IPA, which is 7.5%, and you can pick it up at like Sainsbury's and whatnot. Drygate are a brilliant brewery from Glasgow that I would recommend to anyone to check out. Like, they do a really wide range of different types of beers, and this one is like Overtone that we said before, 7.5%. Doesn't really taste like it. I love it. Double Disco.
They're a good tap room as well. If you're in Glasgow, well worth checking out. Do some good food, some great beers, and get some good guest beers and things like that on it as well. So it's actually in Well Park Brewery. So if you know where the Tenants Brewery is in East End, it's just off there, and it's a really cracking wee place. Yeah, I was really impressed. I was actually doing on the Polo and McKellar as well. So it's a couple more that I'll definitely be picking up for the weekend. Right, let's just get right into FPL chat as usual. I think we're going to talk a little bit about Charity Shield first, or you want to do teams? We'll go teams first. What are you thinking?
Let's talk about the Charity Shield, yeah, and sort of what came out of that. It was an interesting game.
I mean, I was quite happy because I managed to win a bit of money on both Trent scoring from outside the box and Darwin and stuff. So quite happy game for me. But we're definitely going to talk about Darwin. I think a few people have been swinging back round now. I think his ownership's gone up based on that performance. What were you thinking? I was quite enjoying seeing his runs coming off the defence. Like, he seemed to be in behind, which I could have had it with Manny, but they've never really had that big physical presence, number 9, that kind of pushes and plays off the shoulder. So be interesting to see how he plays this season. But I really liked what I saw in that short period.
Lead man, he definitely gives you something to think about now for the Liverpool assets. I think the 4 goals he scored in one of the pre-season games got people sort of bringing them into their draft. And then out of nowhere, Firmino started on Saturday, which I expected Darwin Núñez to be starting, but then Núñez comes on and he looks like a chance magnet. Like with those players that are playing around him, he is sharp, man. His runs are great. We've seen a bit of his finishing, and then obviously winning the penalty as well. So it's definitely food for thought. I think a lot of people were set on their Liverpool trio being Salah, one of Trent or Robbo, or maybe both, or then one of them plus Luis Diaz. So Darwin brings in another thought. I've been thinking to try and get him into my team, and every time I do, I'm not quite happy with it. I think because I'm wanting a premium striker like Kane or Haaland, I can't get away from having Gabriel Jesus, and then I just don't think there's any way to put a 9 million striker in with those two, without really depleting other areas of your squad. So I'm struggling, but he's definitely going to be one that's going to be getting points. Like there's too many choices this year, and he's just throwing another one into the mix.
If you look at it, I think there's 5 at least really good assets from Liverpool, which you don't normally see. And I think going forward this season, it could cause problems because people will end up with FOMO. People will maybe miss out on some really good points. I think there was a points projection in one of the Twitter feeds I was following recently. And they were saying that Diaz is projected to get the most points for 8 million midfielders. And I really like Diaz, but the big problem for me is I think I'm going to have to have Salah on my team, which is infuriating because I thought if I had any balls, I'd probably not have him in my team, but I think he's going to have to be in there. That takes up one space. Then you've got the Trent Robertson debate, and I'm liking a look at Robertson over Trent, and it does save me a bit of money, so I think I'm going to go Robertson. So that's your 2, and then your third one, do you go Núñez, do you go Diaz? There's just so many options, and yeah, I think it's going to be interesting going forward what people pick and how people play it. I think that's really going to be a big differential maker this season, is how people approach teams like both Liverpool and Man City, because that's where your points are going to come from. But who do you pick out of both of them? I mean, you're not going to know for a good couple of weeks. So do you play it safe and go for the obvious options, or do you go a wee bit, balls out and do something different? I'm swithering again, but I've been flip-flopping all week about it. I'm not sure what way I want to go.
Yeah, for me, at the moment I've got Salah and Trent, and I think I'm trying to go for Robertson as well. As I said, Darwin's maybe not suiting my sort of team structure. And then the 8 million midfielder spot, I've currently got in Saka. So I think I'm going to end up with either just Trent and Salah or Trent, Robbo and Salah, which I'm fine with that. Like, I think if you need to make moves if Núñez hits some form or Diaz, then I think that's doable over a week or two, or with a 4-point hit. So I wouldn't worry too much about if you can't pick your 3 Liverpool players that you want out of the 5 or 6, however many of them may be good value assets. Things can be changed. But even at that, if you go Robbo over Núñez or Diaz or whatever, I think the points are going to even out a bit. I think you'll still be in safe hands with any of those players that we mentioned.
So conversely, let's have a little quick chat about City. Obviously losing the game 3-1. I mean, it didn't look like a 3-1 game to me. I didn't think there was that much of a margin between the two. I do think Liverpool were the better team and they deserved to win, but I'm not convinced they deserved to win by a 2-goal margin. And I felt that you're going to have some points about Haaland to talk about, and just before you do, I'm just going to say it didn't really put me off Haaland. I know I think a lot of people, the ownership's dropped in him, but for me, I think the fact that he was still in getting those chances and being in the positions to take them, I think that's most important. I think if he wasn't getting those chances, if he was just not in the play at all, I'd be more worried. But I think it will definitely come, and I'm waiting for once that KDB Haaland partnership strikes, it's going to be crazy. So I definitely wouldn't be put off Haaland, but I can see why a few people might be.
I know he's tough. There's so many things to think about. Obviously, being new to the league, we've spoke about already. After seeing him, like he does pass the eye test in terms of like getting those chances. He had a goal disallowed, which was a chance before it, and then it led to another chance that he scored. And then he had that horrific sitter at the end of the game, which he's getting a bit of stick for. But I mean, it was in the dying seconds. They were 2 goals down. It would have been a bit of a meaningless goal had it gone in. You still expect him to score that from like 4 yards out instead of hitting the bar. for me, my plan has been for ages, like, go with Kane, game week 1, switch to Haaland, game week 2 for Bournemouth at home. It still gives me the fear a little bit because we've seen Alvarez come on and get a goal and he looked sharp, albeit he played on the left, I think. There's also Foden to factor in. Like, a lot of people are sort of saying that Grealish seems to be nailed down for that left wing position, meaning Foden can sort of be like false nine. He's been good there, and then he can play on the right as well. So I still worry about some of the comments that Pep said about Haaland's fitness, and it's going to be managed throughout the season. So how are they going to play that? Are they just going to gung home at the start of the season to get him used to Premier League before the Champions League starts up? Or are they going to manage his minutes because they can? Like, they can throw in Foden as a false nine, Mahrez and Grealish either side. Like, they can play Alvarez. They've just got that many good players. So for 11.5, like, I do have the fear about putting him in, but I've also got the fear about missing out, especially against Bournemouth at home. So he's a total conundrum. That performance at the weekend didn't change anything for me. I'm still like, I don't know what to do with him.
It's interesting because, I mean, do we speak about who's taking their penalties? Do we know yet? I know, who was it pre-season? I'm sure they got a penalty. Anyway, I mean, it would be interesting, I think, if Haaland was taking the penalties. It'll be is it Mahrez? I think I'm definitely interested in him. I still think he's good. I'm worried about the price. I think it's quite a lot of money. Like you just mentioned, Alvarez coming on looked pretty sharp, looked like a decent player. Foden coming back changes the system again. You know, he's going to definitely be up for contention. So you're going to have rotation in that midfield forward position. And I think we spoke about before that there was a lot of chat about Haaland having his minutes managed. That was part of the reason that he came to City, was the opportunity not to play every game and not be, rushed.
Man.
Yeah, and I think that's definitely going to be in my thoughts. I'm not convinced by Kane. I don't think... I think I'd rather have Son than Kane, but again, that's, am I going without a premium striker, or am I leaving myself hamstrung for if I do need to make those transfers, instead of having, like you say, switching from Kane to Haaland, that's one transfer. If I try and switch from somebody to Haaland without having the money, Kane up front, that immediately means I've got to do two substitutions, which is it's a 4-point hit, and that's not really what I want to do. So yeah, it's worrying. I don't know if it's one of those things that you definitely need to have both Kane or Haaland. I'm not convinced. I'm actually swearing that I don't think I will, but I can see why everybody else is swinging that way and having those players in their team, at least one of them anyway.
It's hard, man. I've just got Alvarez on the screen here because, like, I keep coming back to thinking about the 5 sub rule. Like, even if you went Alvarez instead of Haaland and didn't go for KDB, you could maybe have Mahrez or Grealish or something to cover a bit more Man City. Like, he's going to be getting minutes. So if they do want to start Haaland and they're leading maybe 1-0 or something, they can probably afford to take him off around the 60-minute mark, manage those minutes that way, still give him the start because they've got Alvarez that they can bring on, they can switch things around. So I think if you're not wanting to go for that premium striker, not just yourself, but anyone really, like Alvarez at 6.5 at 2% owned, like, imagine he does get that odd start or comes off the bench when City are needing another attacker, or they're kind of playing well enough that Haaland can get a rest. That price, man, for someone that's going to be in arguably the best attack in the league is just nuts, and he's not in many radars. So I think he was in one of your drafts, wasn't he? So I think you're maybe ahead of the crowd there. I think that should be higher though. 2% is nuts.
Yeah, I mean, I've got him in. I think it's based on the idea that I needed a bench, and I want a strong bench. I see a lot of these drafts where they go top heavy in the team and they don't have a strong bench in it, and it really scares me, because I think going from last season, where we talked about how many hits we had to take last season because we were constantly reacting to team news, games being cancelled, which I don't think will happen this year, but with the World Cup and things like that, I'm just a wee bit nervous. I think having maybe one throwaway sub is fine, but for me, I really want to have at least 2 strong players on the bench that I know if I need to get points from them, they'll play. And I think Alvarez could be one of them. He is slightly on the pricey side for that, but I really liked what I saw in that game. And I know, although it was a very short, almost a cameo appearance, he was in the right position. He took the chance well, and I think that set, like, it really serves him up for going forward. I think the idea that the two of them could play together isn't impossible. I think it's definitely an option. Grealish is another point that I would like to make and talk about, because I think he's such a fascinating player. you know, a lot of people complaining that he's not doing enough for the team. He hasn't maybe scored enough goals. He does create chances, but you saw last season, especially in the Champions League, where he missed that really important chance, that he's maybe not fulfilling that £100 million price tag. And he is an interesting player, but I'm not convinced he's nailed on at all. I think that his performances haven't warranted it. So I don't think this season, not to say that he won't play a lot of games, I don't think he's nailed. I think that forward line is, other than KDB, is going to definitely rotate. So it's definitely an interesting one.
You're right. Yeah, it seems to be that people are getting lulled into a false sense of security with Grealish because he's played so many minutes at left wing in pre-season. But you know what Pep's like, man. Like, he'll start like Foden, Alvarez, and then KDB as a false nine as his front three in the first game of the season just to mess with us all. Like, I wouldn't take Pep's pre-season too much as gospel, really.
Well, I think that's, if you look at previous seasons that we spoke about before, you mostly find that most people take their points through Man City through the defence. So it's Cancelo, it's Diaz, it's the keeper. That's where you're getting your points, because you're getting the assists, the clean sheets. You know, Man City are brilliant for clean sheets. So as a manager, I would always look at maybe having at least one Man City defender. I'm really annoyed about Cancelo's price tag. I know he's obviously worth it this season, but it's really off-putting, and it's making me want to go Diaz or one of the slightly, like you mentioned, Walker is another great example of a player that'll be in that City defence that if they don't sign anybody, then he will play, and he's only like you said, 5 million or something. So
5, yeah.
It's interesting. This season, I think, has been the hardest start of the season that I've seen. I don't think over the past couple of seasons, I don't think I've had to hum and haw this much about what players I want to put in. So I think this season will be tough. I think a lot of people at the start of the season, I'm not convinced the template will be, you know, as massively owned as previous seasons. I think it will be fine margins all the way around, and I think that will change every week as it goes through. I think people will be flipping. I mean, look, we've not even talked about Perisic, and you look at his ownership, and I do fancy him. I think he's going to be a good player, but there's just a bit of a doubt in my mind about just his sort of fitness, whether he definitely starts every game, that kind of stuff as well. So
yeah,
it's one of those interesting ones, but we'll see what happens. What other players have you been looking at? I know you've got your eye on some players. We spoke previously about some of the more, you know, under the radar players, but have you got any other ones?
So we've been speaking about Leeds briefly, but we've been speaking about Wolves a lot. We can come back to them, but my kind of thing at the moment is Wolves or Leeds. I feel like they've both got the same sort of good-looking assets and good fixtures at the start of the season around the same sort of price, and I'm edging towards Leeds. I don't know why. Well, I do know why they looked great in their final pre-season game at the weekend. Bamford scored a great goal, and Aronson got 3 assists. I'd love to remember who it was they played against, but I'm sure it was a decent side. It wasn't someone pretty rubbish. These fixtures are great. Like, if you can pair them with someone that you can bench them when they're at home to Chelsea and away to Man United, all these fixtures are just so good looking on paper. I'm trying to ignore the green of the FDR and really think about what these teams are like. I know Brighton away is hard and stuff, but I always feel like Leeds last season and the season before that, they're such an attacking team. Like, they can get goals against any team. They might not win the games, but they can certainly get goals. And even without Rafinha, I think the signings of Sinisterra and Aronson, and we've got Harrison's going to be fully fit this season, hopefully, and Rodrigo was good last season. I think they've still got a lot more. Bamford is back. He's on penalties. I think his price range is a bit too much, but Aronson I'm really, really keen on. So I'm kind of going between, I'm looking at a sort of £5-6 million midfielder. I've had Neto for ages. Then I started thinking about Podence. Then Jimenez got injured, and I was kind of like, oh, Podence could be playing in the middle, or it could be Hwang. And then I started thinking about Leeds. So going between them at the moment, but the fact that the Wolves players are so highly owned, especially Neto, it's kind of putting me off them. I just think that Wolves didn't score a lot of goals last season, whether Jimenez was fit or not. They just didn't seem to be looking that sharp like they were whenever they had Jota in the team previously. Neto's ownership's pretty high. We scroll down, Podence, I'm pretty sure, is so far off the radar. 0.5%. Like, for the same price, he's going to be playing either the false nine or on the right, Neto on the left, Hwang. I think the 3 of them will interchange. Like, So I think they're always good options as each other. But for me, I'd like to maybe go for one from each team. I might do that in the end, get rid of Andreas Pereira from Fulham, but there's good assets from both teams. That's giving me a bit of a headache now. Have you got any Wolves or Leeds?
I was just going to say, to make the point that I know you spoke about Leeds being sort of attacking, but under Jesse Marsh, I feel they might have just changed slightly. Saying that, they won 6-2 against Cagliari last night. Rodrigo scoring a hat-trick, which is an interesting one. Bamford scoring twice and Koch scoring the other one. So, yeah, I think they're an interesting team. I really like the fixtures. As we spoke about, the switching out is a great way to navigate. They are those tough games. Just having one of their players in midfield that you could take in and take out, or even the striker, is a great shout. I am completely baffled by the Neto chat for Wolves. I have no idea why people are interested in Wolves. I know you keep talking about Wolves in Neto and Podence. I cannot see it. I do not get why people are interested in them. Wolves, for me, last season, at the tail end of last season, were an absolute mess. Sorry to any Wolves fans, obviously, but I don't get it at all in the slightest. They're not the team that I would go anywhere near. I cannot see Neto far enough. Yeah, I think maybe defensively they're interesting. I don't know. I know last season they had some clean sheets and things like that, but I wouldn't have any Wolves players in my team at the start. I don't even know what their fixtures are. I haven't even looked at them. They're just not even in my plans in the slightest. They're not a sexy team. A lot of the time, I don't think, like you say, with the injury to Jimenez, is particularly bad, because that's, that's one of their star players. I know they have other players around them like Neto and Podence that do make a bit of a difference. I like the idea of Hwang. I thought maybe Hwang was a way in, but he's not played that many games during pre-season, so I don't think I'll be touching Wolves. I'm Leeds a bit more interested in. I think you've made some good points in that. I like their fixtures, but Wolves I wouldn't be touching. They're just not the team for me. If anybody else wants to pick them and they've got a solid reason for it, please do. Don't let me put you off. I think any kind of reasoning you have for it is great, but for me, I just don't. I'm not interested in them. One team I was going to ask you about, which I'm quite intrigued by actually, we haven't spoke about at all, and for good reason, obviously, is Everton. They seem to be making some good signings. Apparently they're back in to re-sign Idrissa Gueye from PSG.
Yep.
Great player. I think McNeil scored twice, was it the other night, in a friendly? The defence looks a bit more solid. I mean, are they even contenders? Is anybody looking at them? I don't know. I'm quite intrigued by what people are thinking. That's not a bad fixture list, apart from that Chelsea home game. Before you get to game week 6, you could easily switch out any of the players you get, transfer them out. But yeah, I'm intrigued. I'm definitely intrigued by McNeil. I absolutely love him as a player. I had a big fan of him when he was at Burnley. So I think that's an interesting one, and it's definitely one I'll be keeping my eye on. I think after scoring twice, he's known for assists. He's known for goals. He's one of the players that I'm another kind of under the radar again, but he's another player that I'm keen on.
Yeah, you're right, man. Fits that sort of 5.5 price, the same as like the Neto and Leeds assets and stuff. So, yeah, those fixtures look good. And like you said, you don't need to hang on to a player for 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks here. You can change them to Neto if Neto's playing well, or go for someone from Leeds or Aston Villa or something like that. There's plenty of options in that price range, especially if you maybe save a wee $500,000 in the bank. So, no, Everton look good. I've got Patterson in my current draft. There's no Rangers bias there, really. He was a good player.
I don't believe you for a second.
I thought, like, the little glimpses we got to see him at Rangers, he was good, and I thought he was always going to go somewhere decent, which he's gone. Didn't get really any minutes last season, but he's been playing a lot in pre-season. Seamus Coleman's not had any minutes. They've been playing a back five, so that tends to give the wing backs more freedom and more attacking prowess. I think he's had 2 assists. So to me, he's a 4 million defender differential, because like everyone's going for Nico Williams, and I feel obviously Forest, we don't really know how they're going to adapt to the Premier League, whereas Everton and Lampard, we know they weren't great last season, but they're obviously a team in transition now, making signings and trying to get rid of the hoodoo of that horrible last season they had. So I think he's a great shout for 4 million, even if you sit him on your bench like a few weeks. But when they've got a home fixture or a fixture against someone that you might think there could be a clean sheet in there, he's he's my shout, definitely at 4 million. I'd rather have him than Nico Williams. For now, I might change my mind, but try to stay away from being too template as well.
Okay, so the other side, we've both got a player that we both really like, and that's Trossard for Brighton. We keep speaking about him, keep coming back to him. I really like him. I hate using this word differential, but he definitely for me screams interest. I think when, like we spoke about before, when Brighton are playing well, it's because Trossard's playing well, and he does. His shot ratio is usually very good. He tends to get shots away no matter where he's playing. I think he scored a few goals in one of the preseason games just there as well. So
hat-trick.
Yeah, he's on my radar big time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 141 points last season. You know, I don't think he played as much as he could have done last season either. So I think he's a great player.
Yeah, 2,800 minutes. So he played quite a lot last season and got eight goals and 4 assists. But I feel like there's got to be more output this season.
Yeah,
They look like they're going to have a bit more of attacking threat, especially if they can keep a hold of Cucurella, who seems to be on Chelsea's radar now. So we'll see about that. If he stays, then that's even more reason to go for a Brighton attacking midfielder. He's in and out of my draft probably every single day. Like, I've been keen on him since the first day that I looked. Every video we've been speaking about him, and now I'm kind of like, if I don't go out on him, if I don't pick him, he's going to score a hat trick against Man United, sort of thing. But it's just his price tag. Like, I keep ending up spending my money elsewhere. But current draft, I'm mucking about with. He's not in it, but I've left 2 million in the bank. I'm still sort of mucking about. I mean, I could upgrade Andreas Pereira and get Trossard in there. This is a Cancelo-less draft, so there's space to have him. If I had Trossard in there instead of Pereira, I'd be pretty happy with that 5. I mean, that Aronson could be anyone else. There's work to be done, definitely there, but he's definitely one on the top of my shopping list, I think, at the moment, especially after that hat-trick.
So we both like Cucurella as well, and we obviously like Lamptey. Mentioning Cucurella, let's talk a little bit about your team's transfer policy. I have no idea what they're playing at, but apparently they're in for Cucurella at the minute, and Fofana as well.
Yeah,
I heard a figure right, and if it's true, it's blown my mind. But apparently they're trying to put a package together that's worth 18 million.
I don't understand that either. I mean, I know Fofana, like, even last season, he was really, really highly rated. They were talking about 50, 60 million. It's his age. Like, I don't know what age he's young though, man. He's only like 21, I think. And he has been brilliant for Leicester. So I get it. The money, I mean, it's not my money. So go on, spend it, do what you want. I just want the team to be strengthened. Like Cucurella, I definitely get. It looks like he's going to be one of the best attacking left backs in the league. If he gets into a good side like Man City or Chelsea. And I think he'll be great competition for Chilwell. Chilwell's come back after a long time out, so if Cucurella comes in, then he's more than adequate. Alonso can be a bit of a bomb scare at times, although he's good going forward and on free kicks and stuff. So chat him ending up at Barcelona. So I think Cucurella will be a great signing for Chelsea. And then for Fofana, it's just to deepen that centre back area. Obviously with Christensen and Rudiger going, sign Koulibaly. Thiago Silva's 37, like he can't play every game. There's Malang Sarr, there's Chalobah. Okay, like not that experienced, played pretty well last season. There's Colwell that's come back from loan, but you want some more experience. So I mean, Fofana I think would be a great addition. Somebody you can put down in a 5-year contract and hopefully build into a sort of title challenging centre half. So if he signs 4.5 million, can he grumble with that to get into a sort of top 4 teams defence? I think he'd be a brilliant shout, but we'll wait and see. I do agree, like if it's sort of 70, 80 million we're talking, it's kind of crazy money, but it's just the times nowadays, man. Like people are paying crazy prices.
I suppose if is he an English player? I can never remember.
No, he's French, I think.
He's French. Usually, I mean, you have that kind of English tax where it comes down to the idea that they pay a little extra premium for English players, but yeah,
he's French, man. What age is he? 21.
They only signed him quite recently. I mean, it's quite an interesting one. So it's interesting to me. I think Chelsea's defence is going to be one that people are going to be watching. I've talked myself a little bit out of having Chelsea defenders in my team. I probably will talk myself back in at some point, but it's definitely an interesting.
It's hard, man. I've been toying with Jamesless drafts as well. I've been going like having Robertson here, and it does free up some money if you don't go James and go for maybe another 5 million. But work in progress there. But I just feel like even though Chelsea haven't been firing all cylinders in pre-season and a couple of tricky-ish looking fixtures, I just think James or Chilwell, if they're going to play, definitely James is looking going to play. Going to be an attacking threat. There's going to be some clean sheets in there. I just can't get away from it. Every time I take him out, I put him back in about an hour away. An hour later, I'm sitting there working like I've got the no James jitters, man. I have to get him back in my team. So we'll see as the next few days unfold. But he's in there for now.
Yeah, I think I'd rather spend the money in the midfield. So we'll see what happens. I'm you know, all over the place at the minute, but I think it'll start to solidify the closer we get to the deadline. So one other name I just want to throw into the hat while we're chatting. So Matt Doherty for Tottenham Spurs last season had an amazing season, one of the better ones we've seen. There's talk of him being back, being fit, and possibly in Conte's plans. Would you be keen? Would you be interested? I mean, we already talked about Perisic, but would you rather, maybe, is that a wait and see, do you think?
It's got to be a wait and see. I think I was going to touch on this when you mentioned Perisic. Like, Perisic played at the weekend. He's definitely going to be like first choice, and I kind of feel like Doherty's first choice as well. But Perisic's fitness, and then the fact that Conte's now kind of got a bit of a luxury of choices at wing back. Like, he's got Perisic and Doherty, obviously, Reguilon, Emerson, Jed Spence. They've signed Sessegnon. Like, there's like 6 players that can play these positions, and most of them can kind of switch usually, you think, if they need to. So I just worry a little bit, man. I think Matt Doherty on his display last season, he's got to be nailed on for that position if and when he's fit, obviously. Perisic, you'd think as well, but he's on the wrong side of 30 and got subbed a lot last season for Inter Milan. So I'm not keen on him yet for that price. There's better 5 million options, I think. But see if he gets a assist or something in here, first 3 or 4 weeks, I think he'll maybe come on my radar and maybe try and squeeze him in. But definitely a wait and see for me. Spurs defenders.
Yeah, I was going to say, would you say just put 2 on the short list and leave them at that? Finally, just before we sort of finish, this is one of the conundrums that I'm really want to talk about. You've already mentioned having an interest in Dalot. Man United, right? If Ronaldo stays, for me, if Ronaldo stays, I don't want any Man United players for the foreseeable, just purely to see how that plays out. I think Cristiano Ronaldo is an amazing player, but he's very, very selfish. Like, he's very egotistical. His team, he unbalances the Man United team. I've argued with a lot of my mates who are Man United fans about this, but for me, it's a bad thing if he stays. He'll get them goals, don't get me wrong, and he is a great player, but I just think that he overshadows maybe Ten Hag's tenure a wee bit. And Bruno just does not look like the same player when he's playing Ronaldo on a team. So what's your thoughts on Man United? Are you still interested in Dalot, or are you swivered away from that?
Kind of swivered away from him for the time being. If I was wanting to get into Man United's defence, then he's definitely the way forward. But the sort of 4-5 price bracket, I'm kind of looking at, like we spoke about before, Lewis Dunk, Lamptey, players like that. Excuse me. But I agree with you. Like, when Ronaldo's playing, it just completely disjoints him. I wouldn't really be interested in the forward players. If Ronaldo stays, I'd be more interested in Christian Eriksen if he's going to nail down a regular starting place alongside Fred or McTominay. Like, he'll be on set pieces, he'll be pinging balls around for Ronaldo, Rashford, Martial, whoever. I did read a thing about Sancho as well. United's sort of attacking stats weren't as good when he wasn't playing at the weekend. Like, so a lot of people were getting kind of put off the Rashford pick or whatever, or the Martial pick. So I think United as a whole are a bit of a wait and see. New manager, weird season last season. See how they start, see who starts and stuff like that. But if you are wanting into their defence, then I still think Dalot's the way forward for his price, playing right back, attacking, and else sort of like in the team I would want apart from him. So yeah, but I'm not going to start the season with any Man United players. I don't think Eriksen would be on my radar for a few weeks, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think for me, Martial up front, I'm intrigued by. But 7 million still a tough price. I think Sancho, if he gets a regular game and nails down, will be an outstanding pick this season. But that's with the caveat that Ronaldo doesn't stay, because I just think he's just going to upend that team. Anyway, I think we've covered quite a lot, and I think we should call it quits there. I'm going to go and finish my beer. And yeah, hopefully catch you up soon for our next video.
Yeah, we'll get a video out before the game week 1 deadline on Friday. Probably just do a bit of a unveil the final drafts. I know they could change right up to the last second, but yeah, so stay tuned and we'll get a final draft one up before the Game Week 1 deadline. But also, as I said at the start of the video, drop in some comments if you're watching, or send us some tweets and stuff like that, just so we can see how your drafts are doing and any questions you've got or sticking points that we've not covered, and we'll try and include it. Till then,
Cheers.